Hi, everybody. I don't know if you can see me, if you are tuned in. Let me just do the Facebook link as well. Okay, right. We are here today to start our first series of webinars. And thank you very much to everybody who have sent in their questions. Now, Mr. Buhero in Tanzania sent us a very good article just now, and the article is said you must say please and sorry and thank you. So I'm going to use all three of those. So the three questions are going to be, or three ways that I'm going to use this is to say, thank you for being here. I'm sorry for something that has happened that's outside of my control, and that is that Professor Henry had a sudden family crisis and he had to fly to Cameroon yesterday evening. And I thought I'm not going to disappoint you by just saying this online, because I wanted you to give you this message from him. We are going to address all of the questions aimed at him when he returns. So I will announce when he's available, and he apologizes that he can't make it, but it was really an unforeseen thing that happened. So he has to make his apologies. But we will follow after the 22nd of May. We will definitely do our webinar with Professor Henry. So I hope that you can all hear me. And I don't know, I hope that I'm going to phone longer so that I can make sure that everybody can hear me. So we are live on Facebook, on our EduLead page on Facebook, and we are also live on YouTube. So welcome everybody, and let us start our conversation. Maybe you could write some messages and some questions and respond to the webinar. So it will be good for us to see if I can get some feedback from you to see if you can connect and if you can hear me. I'm also going to write you a message. So if you have questions, if you are there, please say hi, and I can see if you are connected. Right. This is all trying to establish whether we are reaching our audience. Can I ask if you can just give me an indication that you can see me by just writing a message? It shows that it is live, and it shows that it is happening. So I don't see whether you are able to connect. Let me ask some questions. Let me just go to the message board. if you are available, if you can see me. Okay, good. I see some thumbs. Okay, so we will start. I see Mr. Buyeru, Amira, Sapar, Yusuf, Magda, Savitri, Mohammed Abdulaziz, Amira S, Tatiana, Mohammed Yusuf, Kombo, Abdul Khai, Tatiana, Doha, Lily. So great to see all of you here and signed in. So we will continue now with our questions. So as I explained, apologies from Professor Henry, but he will definitely be back soon, and we will then do a so this is a practice session. So I'm going to start with some questions, and I first of all want to thank the people that have sent in questions to or through our email. So we have Mr. Komba from Tanzania, Ms. Doha from Lebanon, Magda from Lebanon, Ainura Kadirova from Kyrgyzstan. We have Anar from Kyrgyzstan. We have Amal from Lebanon. We have Mwajabu from Tanzania. We have Gulsara from Kyrgyzstan, Mr. Harun from Tanzania, and Sultanat from Kyrgyzstan. So all of you have sent in questions, and we are very, very pleased that you have all sent the questions, and you will be able to view this afterwards as well. So let's start, and let's just pick a few questions that will be to benefit of everybody. I'm not going to try and answer all of the questions because I would like to leave quite a number of them to Professor Henry when he joins us after the 22nd. So I think let's focus on a few questions that are easier for us to discuss as edu leaders. And one of the questions that came from Kyrgyzstan and from a Sultanate in Kyrgyzstan is how do other countries' coaches implement EduLead, and how does that work? Well, basically, all edu leaders are following the very same approach to delivering training to their teachers, delivering training to school leaders, delivering training to teachers and leaders from neighboring schools, and also from even government institutions. But I think more and more people are beginning to realize the importance of following a plan. And the plan is guided through your coach action plan and your school improvement plan. And that is the structure through which you then start delivering your EduLead program. I've just had an interview session with Dr. Saleh from NAMA Foundation, in which he shared the NAMA long-term plan, the new 5-year plan that will be introduced from until 2023. And it's really going to be very school-focused. NAMA has identified a number of schools in each country that will have a holistic transformation. And then apart from that, the EduLead coaches will also be working with a local NICE organization and will also be involved in doing the baselining and the according to the new framework that is going to be developed by all the countries. And I asked him also, how can you be sure that the government has support or gives support of this program? And he gave me the reassurance that NAMA Foundation has met with all the ministers of education. They will be signing an MOU with NAMA Foundation. So it will also give further strength to your own implementation in your school. So you can implement the program by looking at developing your own personal competencies, your leadership competencies in your CAP, and also your school improvement plan. And that is how edu leaders are supposed to implement the EduLead program. Apart from doing that, you can also then be, as part of your coach action plan, identify a leader from a neighboring school who you can then follow the GROW model with, whom you can then transfer the learning to. Or you can also work with, obviously with your own leaders in your own school, focusing on developing those competencies within them as well as part of transferring the learning. So I hope that Sultanat has helped you with understanding how coaches are doing it. But the best way of finding out would be for you to go on the EduLead page. And I'm very happy to see that you're introducing yourselves to one another and that you are sharing and making contact, because that's the best way to find out, is to actually go on the web page, on the Facebook page, share some of your learning, ask questions, talk to one another, send each other messages, because that's the way in which you can, across the 4 countries, share the learning and learn from one another in terms of good ideas, best practices. And don't be shy. Don't think anybody thinks that you are bragging or showing off by sharing the good things that you are achieving in your school. We want a debate. We want discussion. We want people to be actively involved in really reflecting on the EduLead program. And I hope that helps you with that question. I'm going to address next a question by Ms. Doha in Lebanon. And Ms. Doha asked, as a teacher or coach, how can you keep your colleagues motivated to implement new ideas into their classroom and do some more work while they are not being motivated to come to school, or where they are not motivated due to school policies? And I wonder what you think about that. It would be great to get some comments written by the coaches. And if you are looking at this webinar on the Facebook Live page, you can actually write some comments as we go along. So, and we can record that. But this is not just my personal experience as a school principal and as a person that's working across all these different countries. How do we motivate and encourage people? Well, the first thing is to always model positivity, because we can easily get influenced negatively if things aren't going the way that we would want it to go. So it is always to be a model of believing in the program and the outcomes that needs to be, and constantly walking the talk. So you can never encourage other people to do things that you yourself are not doing constantly, and that you are not modeling in your own classrooms, modeling in your own meetings. So how do you encourage people to use IT tools if you yourself keep on using paper-based memos? How do you encourage people to engage teachers, children in the class, if your meetings are just a one-way talking situation? So you should model those cooperative structures in your meetings, in your engagement with parents. You should be modeling the use of forms, Google tools, data, sharing the data. So that's the first line of defense. Be the change, model the change consistently, and celebrate those successes. The second thing I think is important, people will always say, what's in it for me? Actually, there's an abbreviation that is often used, WIFM. What is in it for me? Everybody asks that question. And sometimes people can't see the connection. Sometimes they feel it's something that's being forced upon them. But if they can begin to realize, and if your conversations can be about, well, what's in it for you? You will find, first and foremost, that you will begin to love your job more, because you won't be struggling with a discipline problem. Students will be performing better. They will be better engaged. They will be. You will have better results. You will learn from your students because you're not talking all the time. There will be fun. There will be laughter. There will be kids coming to show appreciation in a different at a different level. So that's what's in it for you. You will love your career, your job more. Students will perform better. Um, and uh, and at the end of the day, you will perform better as a teacher, and you will be eligible for bonuses or for applying for better jobs, or you could become a coach. You can publish a book. You can do action research. So there's a lot of this that you need to focus on. People don't always see that connection, and invite them into your class. Open your doors so that they can come and see what it looks like. Because actually, when people see it happen in reality, this is where their minds start changing. Because they'll always say, it wouldn't work in young children, or oh no, it won't work in our school, or that's only for schools in Tanzania, or oh, that will never work. But if they can see it in your class, and the children become the biggest advocates. And here I want to thank some of our coaches especially Ms. Amira, Ms. Magda, Ms. Amal, especially what I've seen in Ms. Amira's and Ms. Magda's Google Drives, those interviews with the children. There's amazing interviews, and their parents have actually given permission for this to be shared. So actually, we could maybe ask Ms. Amira if she could share some of those interviews with the children where they talk about the change for them, what is different for them with her using all the strategies in the classrooms. So that is the way that I think we will encourage others. And just a little hint, you're never going to please everybody. If you are going to become discouraged by feeling that you're the only one who is, you tried so hard with this one teacher, and this teacher just remains negative, put your attention on the teachers who are doing it. Focus on the successes and celebrating. Make the strong people even stronger, because you can never please everybody all the time. And if you look for your own happiness in your role as a coach from other people's responses or trying to please everybody, then you will become depressed. So make the strong ones stronger, and think about the change curve that we did in module 1, and think that everybody is at a different stage in that change curve, and different things motivate different people. So for some, it is just recognition of what they are doing, a thank you note, a post saying, wow, I saw this great practice. For some people, it is a personal thank you. For some, it's a public thank you. For some, it is, so different people like different things, and that is what needs to happen. All right, so I hope that helped you with your question, Mr. Oha. So let's go to a question of Mr. Harun in Tanzania. Mr. Harun, I hope you are there. You asked, I would like to know if there's a tool that I can use to measure the level of collaboration of my staff members. I wonder if you can think of what kind of tool you can use. My suggestions would be the following. First of all, you can measure collaboration through PLCs. And you could then have the data from the PLC meetings. So if your staff members belong to PLC groups, and they have to submit their PLC meeting minutes and agendas, that is a way in which you can already measure the impact of or the collaboration. Another way could be for you to look at their participation on Facebook groups like we do, participation in WhatsApp groups like we do. You can do little surveys by using a Google form. You can do a Google, you can do even on, if your school has a Facebook group, you can do a Facebook poll. You can also ask them to present together. So let's say you divide them into groups of, or they must divide themselves into PLC groups. You have like a once a month mini workshops or presentations by your teachers where they have to come up with a product, a poster, a small bit of research, a little video that they have to share with the rest of the staff. So the tool would be, could be minutes of meetings, looking at your WhatsApp groups, looking at using forms and surveys, and those are all tools that can help you to show collaboration between teams. I mean, these are just a few ideas, but you're welcome. Please add some ideas and share it on the WhatsApp group. Mr. Harun, I hope that helped you with your question. Another question that I'm going to address now, and this would be from, I think I'm going to go to Lebanon, and let us address a question by Miss Amal. So Miss Amal asked how to measure the impact of leadership efforts on students' learning in an institution. And I think this question I'm also going to give to Professor Henry, because he can also give his insights on these questions when we meet with him on the 22nd. But I thought I could maybe give you some ideas. First of all, it goes back to what you've learned in your EduLead course, and that is the vision clearly communicated? It's the role of the leader. So how do you measure the impact of that? How do you know? It's through surveys, it's through asking, it's through interviewing, it's through asking parents and students and teachers. If they can't answer that question, it means you have not really transferred that vision through everything that you have modeled and which you have explained in the school. A leader's effectiveness and the impact is measured through the budget, utilization of funding, through growth of student numbers in the school, through the performance of teachers in teaching and learning, through student achievement. Because at the end of the day, the leader is the one that, whether the leader has successfully implemented the school improvement plan, that would be the tool that will be used by a governing body, for example, to say, okay, is our school principal successful? How will we know? Wow, number one, we do a survey with parents, teachers, and students. Number two, we look at the school improvement plan. Is there a plan? Are the targets robust? Are they influenced by data? And then how is leadership distributed in the school, ultimately to make sure that the targets set in that SIP have been achieved? That's usually what you would do. Then you could also look at what is the average performance of teachers in their lesson observations. What is the retention rate of teachers? Do we have a lot of teachers leaving the institution, or do we have a lot of teachers wanting to join as teachers in your organization? So those are all ways in which you could measure the impact. We call it, there's a term they call it, is your school a magnet school? In other words, does your school attract pupils, parents, teachers, or is and that is driven by the school leader who is distributing the leadership, who is involving stakeholders, who's sharing the vision. That ultimately is the impact of the school leader, which, if you don't have a very engaged school principal or school leader, is a rather depressing thought. But of course, remember, even if you have a principal who's not very engaged, you can still make a difference yourself. So don't give up. Let's go to Kyrgyzstan and let's see if we can have, this is a question from Anar in Bishkek. Anar asked, how do we continue the motivation of the team, where at the beginning everyone was interested and excited, and at the end of the year the motivation goes into decline? I'm sure many of you have had that same problem. Well, people are people, right? We all like new things. And if you think about the change curve, that diagram that we shared in module 1, where there's an implementation dip, you will see at the beginning of any new change project, there will be a lot of excitement. People will be excited. It's new. It's exciting. They like the stuff. And then there usually is an implementation dip. Now, people feel, oh, it's much harder work. I don't see instant results, or I didn't know it was going to be like this, or they discover that they themselves don't have the competencies necessary. So they learn a lot about themselves, and they get, they sometimes are unsure. They're not sure that they're doing the right thing, and they're trying things out, and it's not working well. And often that leads to an implementation. So number one, now be prepared for the fact that this will happen. Now, this is where you use PLCs, where PLCs come together, observe each other, give feedback, and celebrate the successes of what has been achieved. Secondly, as a school leader, is sharing the data, identifying those good practices that you're seeing and celebrating it publicly. So you can have, your every 2 weeks, your learning walk data, teacher of the week, best learning environment of the week, best use of AFL strategies of the week, best use of cooperative learning of the week. You can have also follow up, because they learn something, and then everybody in a training session learns the strategies, but then the individuals have issues, so that's why they need support through grow coaching, through team teaching, through modeling. And then, of course, they don't always see the link between the strategy and the curriculum. So they sometimes might like to do pass the paper, but they don't know how to use pass the paper in their lesson plan. And for that, this is where you connect them with teachers who are doing it well. And also for them to start observing the students, because we get our motivation mostly from what students do and how students perform. So, getting to constantly innovate, constantly share, constantly support, and having the systems in your school to get teachers to think deeper and deeper about the impact of it, and to focus on analyzing the results and seeing it as a research-based professional engagement with the strategies. But emotional intelligent people and people that have a growth mindset, and when there's a culture of positive support, all of this will help reduce the depth of this dip that they're going through, and will also reduce the time that is spent in that dip. So those are some ideas that I can suggest that you could maybe embrace. I'm going to do a question of Mr. Kombo from Tanzania. Hi, Mr. Kombo. I hope you're there. So he says, and he talks about technology. So 21st century leadership is perceived as the ability of a leader to leaders' effective use of technology. I wouldn't say that it's what we perceive successful 21st century leadership to be only. But what I would say is that using technology enhances your ability to be a better 21st century leader, because it enables you to communicate better. It enables you to reach your audience, your stakeholders, to put across your messages that you want to share. It enables you to follow up on data. analyze data more effectively. It enables you to communicate with people more directly. It enables you to track and monitor teachers' work more effectively. So using 21st century data helps you to manage your time better, to excel in all those competencies that you would want to see in a 21st century leader, communicator, excellent visionary, using data effectively, monitoring, evaluating, all of those things. So that's why we are saying use data. We're not saying the use of technology. We're not saying the use of technology will make you a good leader. But we are saying that the user, or that without technology, you can never be a good leader. We know that's not true. But we are saying in the demands of the 21st century, we have to model to our teachers and our students that we are using these tools to free us from the mundane everyday tasks, to research, to grow our learning, to communicate better. We are modeling this, and it's also enabling us to be more effective leaders in the 21st century. And I'm challenging you, if you are not using technology and if you are not constantly investigating what apps are there, what online learning is there, what tools are there to improve me as a leader, then you will become a dinosaur, and you will eventually not be seen as somebody who can function in a 21st century environment. The last word I want to say about this is that no one can can expect people to do things that we ourselves are not willing to do. And I'll say this again. Don't expect of your teachers and your learners to use 21st century technology if you are not willing to do it. Be the change you want to see in the world. That's a misquoted but assigned quote to Gandhi. Be the change, model the change, and use tools to make your life easier. And the only way that you will do this is by experiment. Even yesterday, I found a great new tool to help me manage and I shared that with you, to manage my time. I realize more and more increasingly that if I don't keep my Google Calendar updated, that it becomes disastrous for me. It's the way in which, in one glance, I can monitor and manage many different projects. I can see, I can schedule my time effectively. It's easy for people to see when I'm accessible for meetings and available. So my team don't have to phone me to ask me, Elmarie, can you attend me? They just look at my calendar. That saves us both 10 precious minutes of a phone call that wasn't necessary. But I myself realize that there's a lot more that I can do in terms of technology. So that's my view on your question, Mr. Combo. And Mr. Combo, I really want to highlight you and Mr. Buheru as two of the top technology users, as well as Ms. Amira, Ms. Magda, Ms. Amal, Mr. Nuruddin. You are great at technology and using technology in education. And I really want to hold you up as examples. And please, to the other coaches, to go back to Ms. Sultanat's question, how do other teachers, how do other edu leaders do their jobs? Please share. Don't just share in your own WhatsApp group for your own country, but share how, not just the tool, but how you're using it, and how it's benefiting you. And nothing stops any of you to organize having a little webinar like this. Do a YouTube live session on a specific topic, and people, or a Facebook live session, and people can sign in, write comments, ask questions, and in that way you are contributing across the world in transforming education. Let us address a question of, I want to address a question of each of the coaches who have gone to the trouble of sharing some questions, which I'm so happy about. Miss Mwajabu from Tanzania, who, by the way, is busy with her PhD in education. So I hope that you will encourage her and inspire her. And she has mentioned that learning from the EduLead course has really helped her with her studies. So that's very wonderful to hear. So how does administrative and leadership innovation in the 21st century help to improve school performance? Well, I think in a way, this question is very much the same as what has been asked by some of our other coaches. But I wanted to focus on the administrative part because somebody else, and I think that was Mr. Combo, also asked, how do we recognize the impact of the non-teaching staff in our school? So often we just focus on the teaching staff, right? You train the teachers, you focus on the school leaders, your leadership team, but what role does the secretary have to play, or the security guard, or the people working in the hostels, if you have a hostels in your school? What the cleaners, the people at work, if you have a tuck shop or a school, I mean, all facets of your school. And I want to share a little story with you. I attended training by Stephen Covey, the late Stephen Covey, who wrote the 7 Habits, one of the areas that we were involved in. And in this training session, he spoke about this very same thing. How do we even know, or how do we get everybody engaged in making a difference? And he took an example of a South American airline. This airline was really at the edge of bankruptcy. Their flights were delayed. They were losing customers, and they were like, and then they got a consultant in to come and help them. And he said, okay, get all the departments of your airline to identify the one thing that they can do to contribute towards saving the airline. And what do they think would be the one thing that everybody can work towards and help achieve? And they came up with this one final outcome, and that outcome was on-time arrival. Right? So because if you go to an airline and you book tickets and it's always delayed and there's always issues, you're never going to fly with them again. And that was part of the trouble that this airline had. So each department in this airline then sat together and said, what contribution can they make towards on-time arrival? So just imagine the people, the cleaners who clean the flights, the airplane between flights. They would say, "Oh, we can do this and we can do this, so we can clean quicker and we can put this system in place." The people that were selling tickets, the people that were refueling the planes, the air hostesses, the people. At every given stage, and by getting everybody's commitment, within a few months, they turned this entire airline around. And they celebrated every week. They said, okay, this week we had 60% on-time arrivals. There was a 10% improvement. Congratulations. The next week or the next 2 weeks, 65%, 70%, 80%. And every time they celebrated it, and they would go back to their groups and say, okay, what else can we do? How else can we, until they achieved 100% on-time arrival. And that turned the economic situation of the whole airline around. And I want to use this example to talk about schools. If we only focus on teachers and say, okay, teachers must change their practice and we must train these teachers so that they can teach better, it's not enough. We need to engage the leaders. We need to talk to the students, empower the students. What can they do from their side to be more successful? We need to engage parents. What can they do from their side to be a partner in the education? But then we also have the rest of the staff. If you have security guards at your school, how do they greet people in the morning? What is their engagement with people in the morning? Um, I mean, you arrive at school and you have this person who's just we have somebody that says, "Good morning, they're efficient, welcome to school, we're so great to see you." We teach them these things. We give them pride in their work. And so the first impression that people have when they walk into the school is professionalism, engagement, good, then you the secretaries in the office. How do they talk to people? Do they have a growth mindset? Are they trained? Do they realize that if they're inefficient in their filing systems, that it has a knock-on effect? How do they engage with parents? How do they talk over the telephone? How do they, and cleaners, make them feel part of it. If the schools are cleaner, people are prouder of the environment. They can save money if they're more effective with what ideas do they have? What do they notice? So if you see schools as a total stakeholder community, and you focus on everybody buying into your vision. So your vision might be we want to be the best or the school with the best emotional intelligence or system or approach in the community, or we want to have all of our students leave the school and get university entrance, or all of our students will get work in 5 years. Or, you have your vision, you have your clear ideas that you want to achieve. We want to bridge the gap between communities. We want an inclusive community where it doesn't matter what your race, what your religion, what your origins are. We are an inclusive community. What does that look like for each and every person in the school? So yes, this is a fantastic question. It is important for you to not forget that there are many other stakeholders who contribute towards the success of your school. And you will be amazed if you call those cleaners or those security guards or those secretaries together and say, what do you notice? What do you think can improve? They might come up with amazing ideas that and targets for themselves, which can also be celebrated. So I think that is really, really important if we want to transform schools into, functioning communities where children are people say so easily, oh, we want to help children to achieve the best or be the best of their ability, or they must, who decides what that is if they're never given the experience, the what is the achieve their potential? Who decides what that potential is? If I don't know. I just think we have to be much more specific in terms of what we want to achieve, and then how everybody can buy into achieving that. So that is a question from Mwajabu. I hope that helped you. I've done a question for Mr. Madabu, Mr. Harun, Ms. Sultanat, Ms. Goldsura from Kyrgyzstan. Now, she won't understand necessarily the all of the English, but I'm very glad she sent in a question, and I hope her colleagues who can help her with the English can help. So she's saying, how do we awaken the teachers who don't want to cooperate? How do we help those teachers who are indifferent to teaching and learning? And I'm sure, all of you have that question. What about those teachers that just don't seem to care? They just don't engage. They just don't do the things they're supposed to do. What do we do? How do we involve them? Well, there's a theory, Malcolm Gladwell has a theory around the tipping point. And the tipping point is that it goes hand in hand with change management theory. Number one, you can't change those people in the beginning, Gulsara. They're not going to just do it because you are enthusiastic. Yes, you must remain enthusiastic. You must have a clear vision. You must celebrate success, all of those things. But it goes back to getting more and more and more enthusiastic people on board. So you identify your strong teachers and you give them everything they need to be even stronger: resources, training, feedback, and then get them to influence others. So it cascades through the school. So in the beginning, you might have 10 that don't want to do it, and you have 5 who are enthusiastic. Then they might infect another 2 or 3 or 5, or eventually these very negative teachers will stand alone. And they will go and they will see, oh, everybody is doing this. I'm the only one that's not doing it. Or what will happen is that the children will start saying to them, Miss, why are you not doing it like this? Why can't we do it and try it like this? So eventually they feel isolated, and that's when they will change. At the same time, we have to understand people have different issues. And that's where you can use your grow coaching model with those people as well. You could sit down and say, right, um, I understand, you might not feel that enthusiastic, but what is one thing that you think you can change? What are the barriers to this? What is the reality? What's your goal? The G in goal. So why do you want to achieve this? What is that goal? Is it measurable? Is it realistic? Does it make sense for you to work towards that goal? And then you go into the R part of the grow model. So that's what you want to achieve. Now, what is the situation now? Um, what is the reality? What are the things you don't know? What are the things you're struggling with? What are the things you don't have? What are the things you are experiencing and feeling at this moment? Those are some of the questions you would be asking about the reality situation of where you are now. And then you go into options. You don't tell them what they must do, but you ask them that kind of question. And I think, Sultanat, this is also addressing your question. You would ask them, so what do you think you can do? What are some ideas that you could, who can you learn from? Where could you go? What solutions can you find? What can help you? And through this process, you can maybe give a few hints. You can give some, slides. Have you thought about this? What would you think about that? Have you tried asking this question? But you don't tell them what they must do. And then ultimately, that's the options phase of the grow model. And then lastly, you go into the way forward. So now that you've looked at all your options, which one are you going to choose? Write a little action plan. Who are you going to be accountable for? To me as a coach. What do you need from me as a coach to help you achieve that? How will you know that you will be successful? And then they have to go ahead and implement, and you follow up. They make them accountable to achieving the goal in that grow model. So the grow model is a really good way of also, sometimes people, they don't do things because they're afraid. I'm not going to use technology because actually I really don't know how to do it. And so the best way to do is just not do it. Or I'm so used to standing in front and teaching all the time. I don't know what do I do? How do I manage and control my children? No, I'd rather just keep it the way it is. And that's what, people sometimes don't do it because of fear, because of lack of knowledge, because of bad experiences in the past. So everybody has a different reason. So it's a more complex thing, but now I'll recap. Make the strong ones stronger, get them to influence others, and also use your grow model coaching with a few of those people that you want to see if you can make a change and make a difference for them. I'm just checking to see if I've left somebody out. I have Ms. Anura Kadyrova from Kyrgyzstan. Hi, Anura. She asked a very good question. What is the task of the head after creating a PLC group? What else should a PLC do besides training teachers and conducting learning walks? I think a PLC doesn't That's not the core task of a PLC. Core task of a PLC is to look at solving problems together. So as a PLC group, you can decide, okay, these are the areas that we think we need to develop our skills in, or in the school, this is the things that our children are struggling with, or this is what we are struggling with as teachers. It could be in mathematics. We find that, in the mathematics department, you're coming together and you see that students are all struggling with fractions. And as this is the area they keep on struggling with year after year. So as a team, you can come together and say, okay, what can we do to improve their understanding of fractions? And you can then all try your strategies. And you come back in your meetings and you invite each other to observe lessons and to give feedback and come up with better lesson plans until you manage to achieve success. Or it could be that you're struggling with discipline, or you're struggling with using the cooperative learning structures, or you don't really know how to use your assessment for learning strategies. You pick one area. So we're struggling with developing peer and self-assessment. What kind of forms can we use? What kind of how can we build it into our lessons? That's what a PLC does. So what's the role of the principal? The principal, first of all, has to make sure that people are trained in the methodology of PLC. The principal must make sure that people understand the expectations that he has or she has for them. So you must belong to one PLC. You must attend a PLC meeting once a month. We expect you to fill in this form. This is how you should share your evidence. So that must be very clear. A policy must be in place, right, around PLCs and professional learning. The third thing the principal must do is monitor through his team. You don't have to do it yourself, but through somebody that you are delegating this to, that the PLCs are really happening in the school. You should attend a few PLCs so that you can see what's happening and you can see that it is successful. So it's training, setting expectations and a policy, monitoring the PLCs, and the last thing is enabling the PLCs, which means make time in the timetable for teachers to meet and come together. Allow them to do like we are doing. They don't have to always do it in the school. They can do it, you're busy, you want to get home, see your children, but you might want to run your PLC doing a hangout or a live Facebook chat or, a shared WhatsApp call. So, or I will make time in the timetable where people can meet together. So, yes, Mr. Salem just wrote, PLCs set the rules of engagement. Absolutely. PLCs have to set rules of engagement. How often do we meet? How do we communicate? What are the rules? When do we meet? What strategies? How will we, and it might differ from PLC to PLC. So, but it is very important for you to have a clear goal that you want to achieve, monitor what you want to achieve within your PLC, and then the principal's role is ensuring that it's happening, that the expectations are clear, people know what to do, how to have the tools in place, and that you monitor and evaluate the success of the PLCs. If you can get it done well and it runs well, PLCs will transform your schools. And I think we will have a separate session on PLCs specifically. When Prof. Henry is back, I think that's an area that he's really good at. I mean, he has a lot of things that he's going to share with you. But the advantage is then I can keep quiet and we can hand it over to him next time. And he can then address. There are quite a lot of additional questions. And you are welcome to add. I'm going to share all these questions again on your WhatsApp groups. And you're welcome to add more questions. Or maybe what I will do, let me be more efficient. I will put all of these questions in a Google document. I hope you know what that is. A Google document is a live document. It's like a Word document, but It's a document to which I will give you a web link, a URL, and then I will put all the existing questions there so that you can see what's there, and you can add your own questions. So it's a live document. We don't have to repeat. We don't have to email it. Everybody has access to this, and we all work on this together. So I think that is our hour. Thank you very much for everybody who has engaged. I'm glad to see all the comments, and I would like to get some feedback from you, whether you prefer to do a YouTube session or whether you prefer to do the WhatsApp session, the Facebook session, or what works well. What I can see from my side is that I see the comments coming in on the Facebook feed, so I quite like that, because then you can ask questions there. And I don't know yet whether this is possible with the YouTube, but the YouTube and both can be recorded and shared afterwards. So for everybody who's been here, please indicate that you have attended so that I can give you because I said I'm going to give you everybody a small little e-certificate for attending the webinar, and you can then upload that against your CAP. Your CAP would be, improving your own leadership skills and understanding of the EduLead program. Yes, Mr. Bujero, you're right. Google Document allows automatic savings because you don't have to worry. Whatever you put in there is saved immediately. The more we use Google tools, the more efficient we are going to be as EduLeaders. And what I heard from Dr. Saleh today, very encouraging. It's going to be amazing. And I hope you're all looking forward to the what am I saying? To the newsletter, the May newsletter, where I'm going to share some of this great stuff that Dr. Saleh has shared with me today about the future of the EduLead program and what you EduLeaders will be able to do moving forward. Yes, it seems to me people are saying the Facebook page is more effective. So it seems that might be the way that we move ahead, because we are still experimenting. So thank you, everybody, for your participation. And yes, we are definitely coming again. I've agreed that with with Dr. Saleh today. So we will see you in Lebanon this time. Without fail, I am definitely coming in person. We are looking at September. So thank you very much, everybody, and we will continue our conversations. Goodbye, and thank you for joining us today. Bye-bye.